All right, everybody. It's the Jere Metcalf Podcast where real estate agents tell how they do it. And we have back on the show since episode 77. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But Brian Hopper with Realogics Sotheby's International Realty in Seattle. Brian, thanks for coming on.
Jerry, so good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm pretty fabulous. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Seattle, which is rare.
Oh, wow. It must be a
So
sign.
yeah, where we live here, it's funny, especially the Californians, because we actually talk about it when the sun comes out. I mean, people will say to each other, "It's sunny," and they'll post it on Instagram, and you're like, "I know, I can look, I see it, I get it," but it's kind of a big deal. So I'm liking it.
That reminds me, I lived in England for a while. It was long enough, like over 6 months, and it was like that. It was like the sun. So yay, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's always sunny in Atlanta. Or not
Love it.
always, but a lot. It changes fast enough. If it's not sunny, it will be in about 5 minutes. So
Love it. Well, thank you for having me on. It's good to be back. Good to catch up with you. And
eh,
I'm looking forward to our next in-person event where we can see each other and
me
see so
too.
many familiar faces. So
Well, thank you. It's everybody. Last time, Brian, the episode we did was number 77, and we are going to be at about 250 when this one comes out. So that's been a couple of years.
it's
And
awesome.
we talked about from the listing presentation, because we talked about the listing presentation, and everybody, if you haven't listened to episode 77, Brian literally goes, and I think you list, I don't remember it right now, but you list like, I think it was like your top 10, but you listed several technology. Like I literally left that interview and implemented at least half of them.
Love it.
It
Love it.
was it was amazing. So today we're going to talk more about that. Give us a quick recap on, obviously you're a top real estate agent and top real estate agent in Seattle. Give us a recap on where you are today, including this gorgeous rendering of a property that you have listed and under construction in Seattle and everything you're doing, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm out of Seattle, born and raised here, 45, married 20 years, two kids, and loving life. I feel like I'm just now figuring it out at age 45. And by figuring it out, I mean that I'm learning I know nothing. Like I'm just now figuring that out. I know nothing.
Once
So
you know
it's
nothing,
great.
and you can get somewhere, right? You can learn something.
Yeah, you can learn something. So yeah, I'm at my office today in Seattle here. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day. We've got 6 offices. This year has been incredible, super grateful. So I'll close out a little over 60 million, about 62.
Wow.
Average price point's like 1.9, and then our average sale here in the city is about 879 to 900K. So really like those numbers, and it's a big year for us. We've had some incredible fun listings, and just a great year. So super
Well,
grateful.
especially that I had like five to choose from before the interview, and I finally landed on this one for a backdrop. So tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, give us your team structure, and then let's talk about how you got into business. And
Yeah, you're looking at it. So no, joking.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, we talked about your team earlier, but no, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, 100%. So I did have a team. I kind of deconstructed it a bit to where I'm truly not managing people now, which is super fun. Love it. And I do a ton of referrals with other agents. So I grew up like about an hour south of the city. So born in Seattle, then grew up kind of in the country, and now back to the city. So I have a guy that I work with about an hour south who is in the brand as well, of course, and he helps me out down there tremendously. And then I work with a couple other local agents. I'm more called partner agents. So
Yeah.
it's a team in the sense, but it's not like, hey, we're doing a team meeting today, or we're doing a team Zoom. I don't have to manage people or provide like their marketing. So my wife and I, Nicole, we work together very well. She's a designer and does interiors for our listings, and then has her own interior business as well. And then I have an assistant, and I mean, I feel like my photographer and videographer are like my team, basically. That's like my
Well,
secret sauce.
they're
So
kind of the face of your business, right? So you've got
100%.
it, you had a team, and
Yeah.
now, and it's interesting how it was, you get into luxury, a lot of times it's either like you're a team is a big job, or you leverage the marketing and the infrastructure of Sotheby's. You have
Yeah.
partner agents depending on the deal. You've got a fabulous assistant, and you've got a wife who really makes a nice connection with her experience and what she does in staging and interior design.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly right. Exactly right. And that was the goal, was to simplify. And through that, with incredible systems, we've been able to accomplish even more. So
Love it. So you talk about incredible systems. What do you mean? Like, what are
just being
yours?
consistent. And, with Sotheby's, we're a listing brand. We have the tools in place for listings. We're heavy on the listing side. And we can also have incredible buyers brokers, of course, and like myself, do both. But on the listing side, I think it's most important to have your systems in place with your clients, with your vendors, and having consistent go-to people that can really help you each step of the way. So when you do get a new listing, it comes into play, and you stick with what you've done. So for us, that's heavy communication. Like I'll use the same marketing plan template for most of my listings, and then tweak it out per price point or geographic area. So when if I had a listing appointment call come in and they want to meet tonight at 7, I could be prepped and ready to go and not be that person scrambling around the office. I mean, we've heard Thomas Wright say, like, you always know that person has a listing appointment because they're running around, pulling their hair out, printing this and commanding people to, can you put this together? And that's great. That's great. For me, I like to have it a little more streamlined and try and have less chaos where I can control it. And that's through systems and through repetitive systems. And it doesn't mean they don't change or evolve, because you have to in this business or you get left behind, right? So,
Well, right. And here's the common denominator with you, because I think when we interviewed a few years ago, you were more focused on the team and the systems for that. Since then, you've more simplified and focused really more on the clients you serve and listings, and just doing the best service possible to buyers and listings. But the one common thing with this is streamline and less chaos.
Yep.
And third, what we talked about before we started recording was habits.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you've come, like, what do you think your biggest lesson is from just because you've been in business, is it 20 years, did we say?
18. Yeah, 17, 18, right? In between. It's months separation, but who's counting? So.
Well, like
I'm class of 03 for real estate. How about that?
I think I'm about there too. This is scary, the things we have in common, except we're on completely like opposite. We couldn't be, unless you were in Hawaii or Alaska, and I was a little further south, like in Miami. We couldn't be much further apart. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, the key to success is know your client, know your business, streamline.
Yeah.
And have good habits. Would that kind of say it?
Yeah, it does. And for me, it starts, I think it's got to be somewhat holistic, right? I mean, and I won't say balance. I think balance is overrated, but for me, it starts out, it's a simple little saying that gets stuck in my head: sweat before screen. And for me, what that means is when I wake up in the morning,
say that again to make sure we heard it.
Sweat before screen.
Okay.
So it's not rolling out of bed, hopping on like the gram, right, as my 16-year-old says, or checking your email per se, but like getting active and getting movement. And I'm sure a lot of us have read Magic Mornings. There's a great new book, Magic Mornings for Parents, which I love as well. But having that morning that you are in control, you get out of bed, you have movement, whether that means you go to the gym, you hop on the Peloton, or go to your mat downstairs, wherever it is where you live. But having movement through stretching or yoga or weights or whatever it is to start the day and get the blood flowing, breathing deep before you hop on and take in the news of the day. I think today, especially in our business, we're so attached to our phones. If nothing else is coming in, we don't rest. And I don't know if we're looking for that dopamine hit per se, but we're wanting to just cycle no and see what's happening. And that means we're now moved on to news sources perhaps, or we're checking what's trending on Twitter because we don't have an email we're waiting for. Where for me, instead, what I'm trying to do and practicing is taking that time to rest per se, or jump right into an activity. I don't think like physiologically either as humans, like we're designed to be able to handle the weight of knowing everything, even like
Oh,
happening in the world, right? Like on a broader scale. And
yeah.
so what I guess what for me it started with I had a tendency to like check all my emails and then start checking the news locally, and then I'd go to world news, and then I'd go to ESPN, and maybe not always in that order. I'd start with Sports Center sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got up at 5:15 and it's like 7 and I haven't even done my workout. And those are slightly exaggerations, but I really had to about 3 years ago get back to just having that morning time to get going and get moving. And it rhymes, but not having to know, like not knowing, get going and not knowing. I'm
Well,
gonna
it's
have to
sort of
brand that.
like back to your point, you only have a capacity, like
Yeah,
even though we real estate agents like to think we could do it all. It's yeah, but what are you
totally,
going to focus on? What do you want to grow bigger?
totally. And we don't
You
need
can't
that
have it all,
weight
but you can have
either.
what you choose. Watch what you choose. What did
Totally, yeah. And I think we have a tendency in this business too, to always feel like you need to be doing, and you need to strive more and do more and subscribe to this and buy zip codes. And did you send those mailers out? And did you check close? Did you check your spreadsheet? Did you put those addresses here? And you can start to feel like, oh my gosh, like I worked 14 hours today and I have an assistant. Um, and I don't think that's right. I think we need to turn off some of the noise, and even some of the noise in our industry. And this is just me, like with my own convictions. I'm not saying anyone else should do this, but for me, it really kind of, I guess it brewed with going to quite a few Inmans, and everything was about CRMs. Do you have a CRM? Like, I'm like, if I hear CRM one more time, I'm like, gag, have you done close? Do you have Contactually? Like, do you have all these CRMs? And I think a lot of us, especially maybe newer to the industry, are like, what the heck? Like, what is
Yeah.
going on? All they do is talk about systems. How do they even have time to sell? And so I had to isolate and figure out, okay, what systems am I going to use? What am I not going to use? And I've even reeled it back a little bit, even since our last podcast, of like, yes, systems are amazing, but just do what works for you. And I guess I would end this little tangent by just saying, like, encouraging what I've done for me is to not try and drink from the fire hose, especially the fire hose of the brand, and find things that work for you, find things that you can grab onto and take, but also making sure you rest and knowing that you don't always have to be doing, or don't always have to have the latest and greatest, or do Boomtown or do this or do that, because there's so many different things coming at us.
So really, have you read the book Essentialism?
Yes, Greg, is it Greg McCowan? Yeah,
Yeah, it is. So
yeah,
Jeff Wilson recommended that to me a few months ago, but it's
yeah,
what's essential.
good guy. Yeah, totally.
Because
You're
when you
totally
do it
right.
all, you can't like what's essential.
Yeah,
So everybody who hasn't read that book, it's like it's there's so many things. Becoming successful, the guy who wrote the
yeah,
book and most of us say yes to lots of things. Then you get really successful and you want to get to the next level. So you go, I'll just say yes to more things. And then you can
yeah,
only say yes to so many things. So then you go,
yes,
wait, now it's the inverse. Now I've got to be careful what
yeah.
I say yes to and do, and then do that to my best. Because
So
if you
true.
don't rest, that he actually got really sick, and it's exactly your message. So give us your story on the impact. So it's like, okay, look, focus, streamline, simplify, do what you do at its highest level. What happened that you learned that? What exactly can you tell us you changed? And then give us the impact at the end of the day for that.
See, look, for me, this isn't a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
This is my livelihood. And so it has to be sustainable. I mean, I have at least another 25 years of doing this.
Well, you're only
So
25, so that makes
yeah,
sense. If
you're too
everybody's
kind.
been
You're too
listening from the
kind.
beginning, he's already been doing this almost 20 years, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So what I wanted to do was focus more on what's really the centerpiece of all of this, and it's people. It's it's people, right? And so I think to be in this business, you have to love people, and you have to love people so much that sometimes you have to encourage them and show them value in something they may not see it in. And believe it or not, that's actually what sales is. That's called sales. So I focus more on selling and focus more on my clients. And so I'll unpack those real quick. So selling before, to me, I thought was like a bad word, right? I initially raised in the industry, thought it was throw them in a minivan on a Saturday, which I never actually owned a minivan. And
Right.
but
Yeah,
throw
but
them on a
anyway.
minivan on a Saturday, and you're a tour guide. You show them the best restaurants, you show them a few houses, and then they make the decision. And that's not it. Like the most successful top brokers are not tour guides. I had a case in point. I had a great client about 2 months ago. I sold a home to him 2 years ago here in Seattle, and he wasn't sure he liked it. It wasn't even his favorite one. And I let him know, I said, this is a fantastic area. It's up and coming. You're gonna love it. And I know it's the same floor plan as the house next door, but it's flip-flopped. He didn't like that part. I said, this is just, trust me, this is where you wanna be. This is it. This is gonna be the one. And he wasn't sure. Like I had to talk to numerous people on his team before he made the decision.
Wow.
And I felt like I was really selling him on it, because I knew, like, after everything we looked at, this was the best one for him. It met all of his needs. He just didn't know it yet. Well, fast forward 2 years, and a few months ago, I got a call from him. He said, you probably saw the house next door sold for 300 more than I bought mine for. Thank you so much for getting me in that home. Thank you for letting me know what I didn't know at the time, what was good for me. I'm so glad you did that. And if I would have kind of stayed laissez-faire and be like, hey, no problem, we'll get the next one, it's all good, he wouldn't have gotten this one, which proved to be the one. And
Well,
so
yeah, but it's realistic. Like you've got these other companies who actually do have tour guides, and you have people. And if you've ever done a transaction with them, they usually end up hiring the listing agent by the time they're done, because they realize the frustration. Because we have the insight, we're on the ground, we know. That's why, like, there's certain technologies that do not replace us no matter what, because that
totally,
insight is not going to go away.
yeah,
As an agent, like being a person in a house, the Matterport tours don't even do it. The install, right? So that's such a great point. I think everybody wants to be their own CEO in this business, and there's a lot of that. And not that there's not a place for that, but when you get into real estate, you got in, like, what did you get into it for? Like, what did you initially come into this business for?
Yeah, no, that's a
Was
great
it to be
question.
the CEO, or did you learn you love to sell?
Well, and I want to answer that, but just to back up too, real quick. So the second part of that was transition from tour guide to sales, and then twofold was the second part was diving into my database, diving into my clients, and funneling a ton of different resources into my client database, into my clients. And to unpack how that looks, and I learned some different tips from some of our resort market colleagues, who clients fly in, they show them 3 properties, and they fly out. Most of the time, our resort market properties, our colleagues are taking them to lunch, taking the clients to lunch, or they're meeting them for dinner, because they're only in town for a few days. And here in Seattle, it's not necessarily like that. But what I really dove into, and it sounds, some people may hear this and be like, well, yeah, duh, that's what you do. I started taking clients to lunch more, like really in the last 2 to 3 years, like really being intentional about relationship, and really being intentional about spending time with them and having FaceTime with them, to where it went beyond sending them a recipe card, which I've never done.
Did you really send them a recipe card? I've never done that.
No, I didn't. No, I'm kidding. I never sent
I
a recipe
mean,
card.
I don't know. Right.
How funny would that be? But they would be like, he doesn't even cook.
Exactly.
No, it went really from just like an email about just listed, just sold, or a happy birthday, or whatever I've learned through like following on Facebook, to intentionally being like, hey, let's go to a Mariners game, or that's our local baseball team, if you know. Here's 2 tickets to the game, or here's 2 tickets to the Seahawks game. And just being someone who they have to share my name with somebody else, because I'm that a part of their life. And I'm not like stalker crazy or like overload, right? But just intentional little times that that make sense and are organic and keeps that relationship alive, just like you would do with anyone you want to spend time with.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was, you were striving, you were doing all these systems. It was like, was it going to the beginning? Was it, you were afraid you were going to miss out on something, or you're afraid it meant, what was driving the former behavior?
I think it was making sure I was doing everything possible to be successful in what I thought was successful in the industry. And part of it was, having kiddos at home. Like I got
Yeah.
mouths to feed. There's no time to rest. Sleep when you're dead. And that is exhausting.
Yeah.
And I
When it
ultimately
wasn't
don't think it's
productive.
productive or sustainable.
So there was that was like, wait, this isn't working, and nor is it enjoyable. And then you
Right.
flipped the script and you talked about how you realized I'm actually not a tour guide. There's being a salesperson is actually not a bad thing and very
No.
informative and useful. And pouring what you have into your clients and into your relationships.
Yeah.
And the impact of that, let's look at the difference in your results and the impact of
Yeah.
everything in your world from doing things differently.
Yeah, 100%. Production wise, I was hovering year after year, hovering like 25, 30, 35 million, which was awesome. I mean, I was finishing like top 5 and like, it was great. That was a lot here. And contextual to have a good living. And it's blown it out of the water in the last few years. And it's put me in front of and had a seat at the table with some people I didn't know that I would ever cross paths with. And
By just
so
slowing down.
Yeah, just slowing down, being intentional. It's fun. And I guess that's, in summary, it's made it a lot more funner, right?
You've honed
That's a
your
word, isn't it?
craft. You've honed your craft and done something where you've got higher margins. But what did you say about fire?
Oh, no, I said it's funner.
Oh, funner. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not a
just
word.
a made up word. So,
Right.
yeah.
Funner's fun.
Yeah, funner's fun. But we're having a crazy market here in Seattle right now. And I think a lot of markets are fire. Like, I mean, speaking of fire, I know the ATL is crazy as well.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't want to have this time end without like having some key takeaways for people. All right. And what I wanted to jump into with that is,
Well, will you give us your why?
like the why behind the how. My
The why
Simon
behind
Sinek.
why you became a real estate agent and how that all plays into this, and then you're going to give us the key takeaways.
Well, we're kind of like Vegas or Palm Springs, our industry. Like nobody is from here, right? Like very few of us graduated college and said, I'm gonna go sling houses, right? I'm gonna be a real estate agent. And
They
like
do
God bless those
now, but they
who
didn't
did.
when we got out of college. No.
Well, and that's the thing, like senior agent, who's seasoned agent, I should say, like watch out. It's a get left behind if you're not careful. And I'm saying that as I am one. Like I is you, being 45, like I've got some experience and I see some of the young guns coming up and I'm like, love it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Like go crush
Yeah.
it. Go crush it. So so why did I get into it? I think it ultimately was freedom. So context, it was post.com, like pre-recession, right? Everyone read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate. Like that was the era, to put it in context, like early 2000s,
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, this will be freedom. Like, and I had a cushy government job at the time. I was a firefighter, and I thought, okay, I can do this and be a firefighter at the same time. And I did that for a while, and it was great. It was great. And then decided, you know what, I'm having even more freedom, owning my own business and being an entrepreneur and loving it, that I left after 14 years, left a pretty cushy government job as a firefighter lieutenant, and am doing this. And I'll never say I left that to do this full time. I was literally full-time real estate, part-time firefighter. It felt like, if you looked at hours for hours before. So it's fun. I take a little bit of that into my business now, where a bad day is different than a bad day in this profession. And so it kind of gives scale and context of really what's important. So totally perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah, you remember, like in real estate, some of the silliest things, or you think somebody was dying and everybody's mind they are, but you actually dealt with that firsthand.
I haven't heard from escrow. Wait, it's 10 o'clock and you haven't heard from escrow? It's your escrow. Why haven't they called yet? How many times have we heard that? I'm like, don't worry, they'll call you. I've worked with them for 15 years. They're amazing. But yeah, we're having a wild market here. So check this out. So last week I get a call. I was golfing in Palm Springs, right? And met with some of our colleagues, and we'll talk more about that. But I get a call from a dear friend, client, friend who is friend before I got in the industry, and done multiple transactions since, of course. And she says, hey, listen, a mutual friend of ours said their house on the lake is going on market 2 doors down. And I said, really? No way. So she goes, I'm thinking about just door knocking. I go, absolutely, perfect. Go knock on a door. Meet the owner.
This is a colleague or a client?
A client,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry to make it clear. So she goes, knocks on the door, meets the owners, great conversation. Owner says, well, we're putting it on market anyways. Fast forward 2 weeks later, it comes on market. And our market is so hot. And she's like, Brian, I want this house. Like, my husband and I, we want this so bad. I said, do you really want the house? She goes, yep. I said, okay, you got to do some silly things. And she's like, what do I got to do? I said, okay, so they're having an open house. You're going to go to both open houses, and you're going to be there at the beginning and at the end. You're going to open it and you're going to close it, and you're going to just hang, like not just sit in a chair, but you're going to walk around. You're going to bring a gift for the owner. You're going to bring a gift for the agent, and it's going to come with a handwritten note. She's like, okay, I'll do it. And she sent me pictures. This is a good gift. It's like a little bag of chocolate with like a super sweet note. I'm like, absolutely perfect. So she goes to both open houses, brings a gift to the agent.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I've never met this agent, and I'm blowing up the agent on email saying, hey, my client's gonna come to the house. And he's like, yeah, I met her, she's great. So on and so forth. Fast forward, offer review period comes. There's 5 offers. Well, I get a call saying, hey, we think your buyer's the right buyer, but you guys are 25K under. Can you come up? And I said, 100%. And we ended up getting a house. And so it was kind of silly. It was kind of corny, and a few other things went into it, but it was just keeping in touch with that agent, creating a relationship out of nowhere within like a 4-day period, to where they're actually advocating for us, saying, we want you to get the house now. Like, we like you guys so much. You've made it so clear you want this house. And luckily my buyer, played the game, and now they are closing on a lake house, which they're so excited about. So.
Well, you created in that whole process, you got a seller who just wants the most money.
Yeah.
But then they also think about like all their fears. They don't want to lose the buyer. They want the buyer who loves it. So you create an experience and a memory for that seller. Totally.
And when he called me, he said, you guys are 20 under. They want you guys to get it though. I said, so does that mean we can just come up 10 and we'll be good? Like jokingly. And he's like, nope, you got to come up to 20. You got to match them. I'm like, no problem.
Good to be sure. Good to be sure. But the key, it's really, people don't realize until buyers have gone out there and lost house after house after house after house. Like it's you got to know your market and how to play in your market. You got to know the rules in your market and how to play by them, or you will lose over and over again.
I don't like losing, and neither do you. We don't lose much, do we?
No, I don't. Well, actually, yeah, you lose a lot.
Stop.
It's all about your definition. There got to be a lot of mistakes to learn from, and to you got to look at the problem if you want the solution, but look at the problem for the solution, not like just to be like, yeah, that's a problem. Like, here's the problem, here's what we're dealing with, so here's the solution, and here's how we win.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
So that story aside, here's a couple other takeaways I think that have worked well for me in this year in general. It's all about relationship, and to unpack that in this context is relationship with colleagues. So, for instance, when I'm on the other end and I'm that listing agent, those other agents who took the time to show my listing, took the time to write the offer, and who tried, they're going to get a thank you card from me. They're going to get a thank you card because
all of them?
All of them.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's super simple. It doesn't take that long. Plus, my thank you cards, most of them are pre-printed, so I can just write like a quick little hand note and their logo and all that stuff.
Streamline systems right there. There's one of them. I knew
totally. So they get a thank you card. So, for instance, I also look and see, obviously, like knowing our market, to have a gut feeling on a market, you have to watch the market, right, and know what's closed and what it sold for, and then I like to even see who sold it, like what agent sold it. And so, for instance, today I saw a great colleague who had a sale, like a record sale. I emailed them saying, hey, great sale. But it comes down to that there's the 80-20 rule, right? So the busy ones are going to be the 20% doing 80% of the business. And so there's really only 20% active agents in my market that I need to know their name. That's the reality of it. I need to know their name and they need to know mine, because when they get that listing, I want them to already know who I am. Even if they haven't worked with me per se or closed a deal, they at least know who I am and can associate someone who's hardworking, who's going to follow through, because they just want the deal to close. And so for me, that's a big win, is to keep and grow those relationships with my colleagues, no matter what brand they're with.
Well, and you want them to want to work with you, whether you're on the buyer
Totally.
side or the
Yeah.
listing side. That's like a kind of everything, because it's even everything for your client. So it's these thank you cards. Well, first of all, what you just said is it's not just the what, it's the who, and focusing on the right whats and the right who's.
Yeah.
Right things and the right people. And one of those things is your thank you cards.
Yes.
So these thank you cards you're sending to agents who come through and show your listings. What's are they just pre-printed and you sign them, or is it like a handwritten.com thing, or what do you use?
No, I just get them from Express Docs. So my assistant just orders them, and then you can do like a pre-templated message in there. So I have a few different ones. Like one's pre-templated for an introduction. One's pre-templated for a congratulations for a client. Like they're kind of meant for different things. Here's the reality of it. My handwriting is not that good. Like I can do all caps for like 3 sentences, and then I'm like, oh, and then you watch my handwriting, like it starts going up to the side. Like I'm Ron Burgundy. Like it just, yeah. So that works best for me.
Right? I know. I'm still trying to figure out what to do, because I'm the same. Like literally, so I can't read my own handwriting. It's like
Yeah.
it's not pretty and tidy, and it's actually not feminine at all for whatever reason.
Yeah.
What
It's not big, like big
so what are
bubbly
some,
letters.
do you have any more, like, that's a great system you've got in place. Do you have any more systems or good tools you could share with us like that?
Yeah, I think it's also got to be, so here's the thing, when you have a system and consistency, it keeps you from stressing out and allows you to go back to those places like I talked about, of having a time of rest, because you know you've done it, like you've executed. And so for me,
right, like what's going to come next?
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So for instance, just a couple, so typical things that happen in my day, like I'll get a call from either a friend or for one of us, like within the brand, saying, hey, I got a client wants to leave Seattle, or they want to move to Seattle. So immediately after that call, that person make sure I have everything updated in my database for them through close, right? I add notes, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I'm not here to talk about CRMs. We've already made that clear. But then what happens is it's an immediate thank you card, or they're put on my list for thank you cards to be done like that Friday or the next day, as quick as possible, ideally. And that's it for that. Like, I don't feel like, did I do that? I know I did it. I know there's nothing else I need to do until the next step takes place. So like when the closing takes place, then they get like a bottle of wine, right? Or they get the gift mailed out, like the closing gift mailed out to the referee, right? Or to, whether that be one of us or a friend or a client. Like then, and that's it. I know that part's done. So if I can keep my systems in place, it allows me to focus on the cashier when I'm buying groceries. Like it's that simple. There's nothing more important I need to do at that time than to look at that cashier and say, thank you so much. I don't need to check my phone because I know everything's done.
Well, it's the practice of being present in everything you do, because if you're not, you're trying to only be present with your clients because you're prioritizing that because you're afraid of missing out on something. Right. You're not present with them either, because it's about habits. You got to be in the habit.
And did I tell you, I'm raising humans too. I have a 16-year-old and a 12, and they each have these. Right. And so like, I mean, this is the posture at home, you know, for them.
Right.
And so like I have to set the example and be present for them. And we have moments like we're relaxing as a family where we're all on our devices, you know, like the American family in 2021 is to sit around a fire and everyone be on their own device. Like that's a great time now, culturally now.
Isn't that crazy? I'll tell you, I don't know if it was COVID or what, but we don't do that since COVID. We've done that less. But
really less?
Less because I don't feel like it's pulled to be everywhere. And where am I not? Because there's kind of a more sense of patience. And I also use COVID because you're more systems oriented as opposed to me. We've almost done a flip, but I've created systems that you take for granted that you have in place so that I'm not reacting and panicked all the time, but I'm present, like to exactly your point,
Mm-hmm.
being present. So
have you ever told your kids like your emergency doesn't dictate an emergency on my end? Like
my
they
husband tells me
hate
that.
that. Yeah.
My husband tells me that.
Now you can't
Like,
say that to your
unless
clients
you're
and
married to me,
to rephrase that. Yeah.
right? Yes. I try to tell them that, but
Yeah.
I get reminded of that often somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, those are just some ideas on just making your clients, enabling your clients to stand out, right? And separating yourself from the pack. So then even if your offer may not be the highest, like you got to be darn close to begin with, then you better have your offer written in a way that gets you to that podium, right? But to go from the silver to the gold, I think sometimes those things make a difference for me, and I hope they work for other people too. So
Well, let's see what you're saying. How many times do buyers go in just to be the highest, only to not really want the house and back out? That doesn't do
yeah,
any justice to the buyer or the seller.
right,
When you
right.
do
And I
it this
think it's
way,
too is creating trust with your clients to where they trust you to write that crazy ass offer, right? Right. To be able, I had one recently where, to put it in context, it was sales price was 3.4, and we did $1 million earnest money, and we made it non-refundable, like
oh,
gone. So, and
see,
released to the
that's
seller at mutual. And the listing agent's like, I've never seen $1 million earnest money. And I said, I've never written $1 million earnest money. And some of our LA colleagues may do that, right? Or different markets, but it stood out. It didn't cost my buyers anymore. They knew they were in it to win it. If they got it, they weren't going anywhere. It was a cash offer. It was closing in a week. To get in a position of trust with your clients to where you are the expert and they trust you no matter what it takes to get the house, even if it's crazy like that, I think is the other part of it. It's no longer where a seller or a buyer would say, yeah, we aren't going to release earnest money, or we're not waiving inspection. And if you don't tell them that, hey, listen, the other 20 buyers are all going to waive their inspection.
well, and
And
it's yeah,
you have to make sure that you put it in context. It's not just your crazy idea, but here's the market. And so then they
exactly.
begin to trust you with it. So you're not on your 15th home, and now they get it.
And now they're
You
well, now
spend,
they're mad at you because you didn't tell them sooner. And here's like
if you get 15 offers with them even, so.
right, exactly. But to your point, especially when I'm talking to newer agents, I
Yeah,
find what you're saying, the messages, because a lot of agents will hear this and go, well, yeah, you've been doing this for 18 years. They trust you. But here's something to your point is that
yeah,
when you're dealing with people, make whatever number of years you have in it, it's not how many years of experience you have, it's where your intention lies. Is my
yeah,
focus and my goal to get a deal? Is that
right,
anchoring? Is what's anchoring my decisions? Is what's anchoring my decisions the end result, whether I get a closing or not? Or is what
right,
anchoring my decisions whether my client is being best served or not? And what is my
totally,
client getting what they want? And all of
totally.
a sudden, when you're satisfied by that person being your anchor for what you're deciding is that they're getting the right thing despite the reaction initially to you, it's
Yeah,
amazing how quickly you get a deal on that rapport and trust is earned.
totally,
Right?
absolutely,
Do it, everybody.
100%.
Just listening to you
Yeah,
and knowing you as well is that's how you make sure it's not, oh, my client's a jerk, he wouldn't do that, or people are
right,
too.
right.
It's where are you? Back to you. Time, focus, centered, self-aware.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it.
So we're going to do final three questions before they close this out.
Let's do it.
Before we do that, over your years in business, what do you, if you could sum up your biggest lesson learned? Because I think that's where
Mhm.
a lot of our conversations coming today is, look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've figured this out. I figured I don't know anything, but I do know this. What is this? What is that biggest lesson learned?
Um, Biggest lesson learned is, well, every trip we go on is a business trip. Every trip's a business trip. My kids are used to it. They're like, oh, where'd dad go? Oh, he'll be back in an hour. And I'm having coffee with like either a colleague I know or a local agent who I haven't met within the brand. And it's not like I'm missing time at that point, but it's setting aside time on each trip, no matter where we go, to meet somebody in that market. It really stands out. It's really intentional. I love it when people do that here in Seattle. It makes me feel special as well. And I'm always excited to see our colleagues when they do that.
Yeah.
I was just in Palm Springs last week. I met with a couple of our top brokers down there. Had a
Well, who were
great
just on
time.
the show.
Yeah, we went and looked at some
And Mike
properties.
Patakis.
Exactly. Yeah, and they were up in Seattle a few weeks ago, which was really fun. So making sure every trip is a business trip, and then of course there's some tax advantages of that too. But yeah, knowing the game, play the game, right? So
Exactly.
that's been huge. It's also a lot of fun because I joined the brand in 2014 because it's an international brand and we love travel. And that's truly part of this brand. I think a lot of our clients love travel as well. And making sure you're out there being known within the brand and meeting people. And it makes it more fun too.
Exactly. And that is your biggest impact, because I find initially you might develop, well, let me ask you, what's
Yeah.
the impact of doing that, of meeting agents all over the country? What is the biggest benefit for you?
Well, it kind of broadens your perspective too. For me, it really gives me an understanding of the brand and really the depth we have with the people backing it, because that's truly what it is. It is the people within the brand that makes it so special. And that's just been a huge win for me since joining, is meeting so many fantastic brokers, so many people who are just personable, they're down to earth, they're real, they're real. And I think we live pretty open-handed in this brand. We draw big circles we're pretty inclusive. It comes across maybe it's exclusive, but we're very inclusive. Once you join the brand, it's like, welcome to the family.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
So I think it's like initially people just think they're going to get the referral, but what you learn from other agents, like show me the people five people you spend most of your time with, and I'll show you who you are, or your future.
I said
So
that to my 16-year-old. He's like, Dad, that doesn't mean crap. I was like,
just wait, so
what?
I just wait.
That's not true. But for a second, I was like, wait, is he right? I'm like, no.
Wait, you say that again?
Well, when he said that, I thought to myself, wait, is he right? Maybe it's not true. And then I was like, wait, no. I was like, bro, no. He called me bro the other day, and I was like, dude, you can call me bro, but hey, your bro is not going to put gas in your tank. So you want to call me bro? You're welcome to. I'll take it. But okay, enough about raising kids.
I do the same. My kids
Here's
and
my
I,
second one. Second one is okay, show up. Okay, here's what that means. I can out negotiate the guy or the gal who's at home in sweats trying to put a deal together. Watch this. Like, you're at home in sweats and I'm in my office, I'm gonna win. It's just gonna happen. I'm gonna win. So show up, be present, get out of bed, right?
yeah,
Get movement going. There's a lot of people I've talked to lately, a lot of friends and colleagues who are like, I work from home. I don't like the noise of the office. All I do is drink coffee and eat donuts at the office. I'm like, yeah, but you're missing out though as well. You're missing out on the energy. You're missing out on getting out, going to a place. It doesn't have to be every day, but going to work and getting suited up.
well, you're missing out on what, like, it's what's in your head and what's going on that makes what goes out. And so
Yeah,
you got to do things that change that. And
yeah,
I can see how many times, I'm doing something today because it's a gesture or it's whatever, and all the outcomes of the
yeah,
movement. Like you said, move.
yeah.
You start your day, move.
So true, so true.
All right, now the final three questions. Question number
Yes,
one
yes.
is, what do you think has been, or what would you say has been your best and biggest resource in your success?
Best and biggest resource, I can even say it, in my success. I would say it's big brand, little me. And what I mean by that, it's big SIR and little Hopper Group. That's it. Like, I wear it. I have the t-shirts, I have the towels, I have the umbrellas, I have the wine glasses, and I give them away all the time. and I am very loud and proud about the brand. And I'm not hiding behind like a Hopper Group logo, and that's in the corner, and that's my own brand. But the big brand is what people know, and that's what gains you the immediate trust.
Exactly. It's just a great foundation. All right. So the brand, you and your association to the brand, and delivering on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And owning it, and not thinking your standout is going to be, you have a fancy logo that's basically your initials, like just in a swirl, right?
That's my logo.
Well, I mean, how dumb is it? Like, you go to a marketing team and they're like, here's your logo, and it's like a circle with like your initials, and I'm like, I could have done that on a napkin. Where's the value in that? Like, that
I kind of like mine. Mine's kind of pretty.
Of course we do, because we love seeing our name. Like, we love seeing our name on signs. We love seeing our name in print. All that stuff.
Everybody else said they loved it too, and I believe them.
That's because they know you liked it.
Exactly.
No, your logo is stunning.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm driving.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So next, if there's a book that's changed your career, what would you say that is, or your life, that we better read?
That's a good question. Well, like the cliche answer would be like, dramatic pause, the Bible. Like in a deep voice. I am always
waiting for that answer. Kevin Brown is the only other guy who gave that to me, because he was a priest in his first career.
So you have to deliver it like in a super deep, like breathy voice,
Right. And of course, when is somebody going to give me the Bible? Thank you.
It would be the King James version, like the these and the thous. That's way more spiritual than like the new translations, right?
Well, whoever hasn't read it, which a lot of us know, actually a lot of people should read it, because it's actually got some pretty, I need to reread it, but it's got some pretty good stuff in there, pretty interesting stuff.
It's some pretty good stuff in there. Yeah, exactly.
Other than the Bible.
Yeah.
That's a pretty
so
good
right
one.
now, I would say lately, I mean, there's not one single one, honestly. I've read a ton of different ones. There really isn't. Yeah. I'd say this is a pretty good one. I really liked, like, who has a book like on their desk that they actually, so Gary Keller's the one thing.
Yeah.
So I was at Keller Williams for like 8 years before I saw the light. Anyways, but yeah, great book.
I was there for like, seriously, way too much parallel.
Let's go. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, what'd you get from the one
Frederick's
thing?
book too, The Cell.
Oh, okay, we're gonna slow
Really
down.
good.
First of all, the one thing, Gary Keller. What's the other one?
The other one is Frederick Eklund's book, The Cell.
The Cell.
So I've never watched his show, but the book was really cool. Like, some crazy cool stories in it. And I just happen to have these on my desk. So I don't know.
So those aren't really your favorites. Those just happen to be on the desk.
I mean, they're good enough to be sitting on my desk.
Okay, good point.
It must be pretty good.
What is your biggest takeaway from the one thing by Gary Keller?
Doing one thing.
I'll give you mine.
No, I'm kidding.
Brian Hopper's not interviewing Jere Metcalf, but I do have a big one for that one. But what's yours?
Do you really? Yeah, I'd love to hear it too. I'd say the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway, is just focusing on like what you are doing. Like, break it down to like 2 or 3 things, and not make it like because in this business, right, we're counselors first off, right, and then we're supposed to know about all different siding, and then we're supposed to know about every roof product, and then how long those roof products last, and then we're supposed to know like how many amps are to this house, and when was this hot water heater built, like how old's the furnace, what's the service. We're supposed to know like so much stuff. It can be exhausting, and so breaking it down to like a few things that you dominate in, that you can look at someone in the eye and say, I'm an expert in this market. I'm your expert. Like, I'm your real estate expert on your professional team. Thank you so much. And being like that confident, like that's the one thing. You're that guy or gal. Like, you are the expert.
And to your point, talk about being able to be present and develop relationships in what you do when you do that.
All the way. Yeah, 100%. So
the other book, what's the Cell, the SELL, for most people actually listen to this show as opposed to watch it. So just they know. So The Cell, what is your big takeaway on that one?
I didn't know the dude was so tall because I'd never really watched the show.
That was your takeaway.
Like,
I'm kidding.
He's like 6'8".
Did he play
He
basketball?
is tall. No, okay. So my favorite part of that book was he comes out of this. Well, he flies to this listing appointment, which is kind of dope because I was like, I need to fly somewhere to do a listing appointment. I haven't done that yet. Like someone calls you and they're like, yeah, I'm in Hawaii. I want to list. I'll be like, I'll be there tomorrow. I mean, how crazy cool would that be? It's like, babe, we're going to Hawaii. But yeah.
So was he flying because he was out of town and coming home to a listing appointment, or was he like flying to Hawaii to another market?
No, he was like he told him, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be in the neighborhood, or I forget the exact story, but it was something like, yeah, I'm happy. Oh, funny thing, I'll be there. And he's like, no, I wasn't, and just flew there. Which I don't advocate lying, of course, because we have far more important tools in our toolbox. But that said, is he did the appointment, and as soon as he walked out, it's like on the plane ride, he said, I drafted this whole reply. That was awesome. He walked out of the meeting and had it saved in his drafts and sent it. And the guy was like, you got the listing. Like, how did you reply so fast? And his point was just being so prepared that the moment you walk out, you've already got your reply prepared. You sprinkle in a few things that maybe were organic or contextual to the meeting you just had. But you're that quick of a follow-up, because if that person's interviewing 3 people and you're the one that's followed up that detailed, that quick, it stands out. So that was a big takeaway.
So which goes back to where you started, was find what's essential, because your capacity, you don't have a capacity to be that prepared for 20 listing appointments in a day.
No, you don't. Absolutely. And that's when you need to obviously have some help. So,
or raise your price point.
Or raise your price point. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hey, what a good talk. So good to see you.
No, we have not done the final 3, Ryan.
Oh,
that was number 2.
I'm trying to end it.
So number 3, question number 3 is, this is where I close you. Okay. Is, of everything we've talked about today, if we forget everything and remember just one thing, what do you hope that is?
I think in summary, would be proud of like who you are, be proud of what you do. See yourself where you want to be. Like, see yourself, visualize the success you're going to have. Visualize what that looks like. Like, visualize walking out of your office having won that negotiation. Visualize that sold strip on that sign. Like, sounds cheesy, but like visualizing and seeing yourself where you want to be, because otherwise, like, you won't be there. Like, you have to see that, because then the steps come and you go through that journey in the process to be there. And then also realizing at some point too of having some satisfaction and enjoying some wins. So my little rule is, like, I don't celebrate more than 24 hours, and I won't get upset about a deal of more than 24 hours. And moving on to the next one. So if you do have some step backs, seeing yourself successful, being proud of what you do, knowing that you're making a difference.
So have and know your vision, and don't be afraid to celebrate your successes along the way.
Absolutely. 100%.
Brian, awesome. Brian with Realogics Sotheby's International Realty in Seattle. Thank you so much for coming on. It's awesome to see you.
So good to see you. Yeah, what a great time. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf